you added some additional information that about lighting. There will be no additional lighting. So does that mean there is? I'm a little confused about that. There is lighting, and there won't be any more lighting than there is already. I'm concerned about night lighting, is what I'm concerned about, and there was no indication of whether there would be.
I think what you were referring to was the analysis of impacts along the access driveway. And that analysis was in regard to headlights. There may be some headlights that use the driveway at night now, but the project would not increase that.
No, this is on the NMD where it says there will be no additional lighting for either the zip line or the ropes course. There's one outdoor light on the warehouse which would remain. But the question is there any night lighting that's going to be as part of this project that would increase lighting on the project, particularly since the zip line is on the Ag Preserve project, which portion of the project.
The project would operate during daylight hours only, and it would not include any new lighting.
So there's no night lighting?
Not associated with the project.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Cooney?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Going to what I think is one of the core concerns of the project, that is the number of visitors. Condition number 9 as drafted, and I don't see that it's been modified, provides for an annual report, an attendance report for a calendar year, 45 days after the end of the calendar year. As far as monitoring goes, it says P&D permit compliance shall review annual reports to determine if the maximum daily attendance limit was exceeded during the previous year. Because so much of the opposition that we have heard about relates to impacts of the additional traffic, my feeling is that at least for the first 2 years of the operation, we ought to have more frequent reporting, and if in fact the number of visitors per day is exceeded on a significant number of those quarterly reports, it seems to me we would have the basis to call for a hearing to consider modifying the conditions. So unless, Mr. Rodriguez, there is some other provision I haven't noticed, it looks like the only requirement so far is annual reporting.
Commissioner Cooney, you've interpreted that correctly, and that would be seems like a reasonable modification to the condition.
That's all from here, Mr. Chair, right now.
Thank you. Any more questions?
I have one.
Commissioner Blau.
Well, I just have a question for Commissioner Cooney. How often would you propose that the reporting be done?
Well, I don't see the requirement at the present time being a substantial burden on the operator. I think they're going to be keeping careful track of visitors for a number of reasons, but if all they have to do is turn over the daily logs for review by planning and development, I would suggest it be each quarter for the first 2 years of operation, and based on compliance with essential compliance with that condition, I would see the condition sunsetting at the end of 2 years of operation.
And then just annually thereafter, we're proposing?
Correct.
Okay.
Then it would fall back to condition number 9's annual report.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if the commission as a whole is interested in that, I would suggest the easiest way to accomplish Commissioner Cooney's intent would be to put some additional language into condition 9 under the section plan requirements and timing, so that it would read, Daily visitor attendance information shall be reported for the first 2 years on a quarterly basis, and then annually for the calendar year, January 1 through December 31st.
Sounds good. Commissioner Cooney?
That's fine, just including the 45-day after the end of the calendar quarter, as long as that's understood in the language that that's the time frame within which the report would be made. It sounds good to me.
Ms. McCurdy?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Cooney raises a good point that to fully accomplish the changes he's talking about, I do think we'd need some additional language about that the required quarterly and annual reports shall be submitted within 45 days of the reporting period instead of just at the end of the calendar year.
Okay, very good. I think we're ready to move on to the applicant.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I'm sorry. I do have another question.
Sure, go ahead, Commissioner Brown.
All right, thank you. Attachment F is a letter from Mr. Spiewak concerning annual monitoring of condition of the oak trees. And I was just reviewing the condition number 3, which is about oak tree protection. And I really don't see in this condition that it talks about annual monitoring. And I think that was the point of my question, was that his report sort of talked about that, and now he infirms that that's what is annual inspection, annual post-development monitoring, but the condition is about tree protection during construction. And I'm wondering if I could get some clarity from Mr. Rodriguez.
Commissioner Brown,
Is there someplace else
if you
in the document that talks
if you
about
look
that?
at condition number 6, that was modified to provide very specific requirements for compliance with
okay.
the oak tree assessment.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you. I didn't pass that up. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we can move on to the applicant.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Honorable Planning Commission members. First of all, you have to pardon me for my voice. I'm fighting this head cold that's going around, so I hope my Sucrets are going to work. But my presentation here will be brief. First of all, I want to thank the staff for the quality of their revisions and supplements to the staff report and to the mitigated negative declaration. I think that it was of good quality and addresses the issue that that your commissioners had wanted to see addressed in our last meeting. On behalf of the applicants, and I'm sorry, my name is Mark Lloyd from LMP Consultants, and I'm representing the applicant. On behalf of the applicants, we would request that you follow staff recommendations for approval of the project application for the CUP for the Rural Recreational Project, and that you adopt the negative mitigated declaration, including the revision to monitoring reports of visitation that was just discussed about. And I'm here. Final point I would want to make here is I believe that that there's a good and robust review of policies, particularly as they apply to ag in the MND and to the other factors that address impacts of the project. And those are very consistent with the approach and the regimen of policies that the county has. I think it's important to note also that this project has a number of unique attributes and something that's really not accented from a policy standpoint. And I think the staff report does a good job in identifying those unique attributes of this project as may be compared to the same kind of project in another location. And just in a few of those cases, that would be the proximity to an urban area, as the report indicates. We are very close to the city boundaries of Solvang and Buellton, and all the accessory uses and visitor support facilities are in place there and can serve the visitors to this site without any increase in the level of those services or require new services. The project has virtually an adaptive reuse of any of the facilities that are involved with it. And as noted, the project is well suited in the landform that it's located in, and therefore will not displace or impact agricultural operations. So the point I want to make here is I think that the staff report enumerates a number of unique attributes of the project that are worthy to be recognized and integrated to your recommendations and approval. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Questions?
Is the quarterly reporting, is that agreeable to the applicant?
Yes, as I indicated a moment ago, and I apologize, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Hartman, if I wasn't clear, yes. Quarterly reporting, in my reckoning, is a very regular type of interval for reporting for most things. Not a problem.
Commissioner Cooney or Brown? No questions?
No questions here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Okay, now we'll move on to public comment. We have quite a few. I think 2 minutes will be, you want 3? Okay. So we'll call the first speaker, and then I'll call the next speaker. We have Laurel Roberts, followed by Phil McKenna in Santa Barbara.
Good morning. I have been living in between Solving and Buellton for 50 years. My family knows the area very, very well, and 10 of those years I lived on the Gardner Ranch. I know all those mountains because I've ridden them for many years. And I know the wildlife on that mountain. And nobody is taking into consideration the impact that they would have on that wildlife. When I first heard about this, I was just stunned by the fact that nobody's doing an environmental impact. My family's been good friends with the Gildreds my entire life, and I don't have anything against them making money off their property, but what you're going to do to the wildlife is huge. It's going to impact in a huge way. I have a mountain lion that comes across that valley every year and comes through our property in the spring, feeds in our canyons, and then builds her lair and comes back through. And over the last 8 years, 10 years, we've seen this mountain lion starting to get vicious because I don't think there's enough food up on that mountain. So she feeds in our canyon, which frightens me for our horses. I think it's already being impacted, and looking at what you're trying to do, it's going to be majorly impacted, where it's going to push all the wildlife back over the top of that mountain. You can't put that many people on that mountain and not be impacted. It would be a travesty, in my opinion. So, thank you very much.
Phil McKenna, followed by Brett Pearson.
Good morning, commissioners and chair. My name is Phil McKenna. Significant issues exist as to the compatibility and intensity of the Sierra Grande Rural Recreational Project with regard to the Williamson Act and also with regard to agricultural zoning in general. I will assume that the APAC meeting on January 6th had a quorum. I will check that in the minutes. I did object to the fact that the previous meeting did not appear to have a quorum. So I will not linger on that issue at this point in time. I do want to say, however, though, that this is a slippery slope that the county is on in agreeing to significant development and activity on an agriculturally zoned parcel that will change the character of the neighborhood, of the parcel itself, of its use, of the wildlife that was just noted, and the integrity of that agricultural zoning across the entire county. So I would ask this commission to deny this project application because it is going to set a precedent that will significantly impact and potentially change the character of Santa Barbara County. Thank you very much.
Brett Pearson, followed by Ann Can or Kane.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you once again. My name is Brett Piersma for Polly Rich Farms. The revised staff report and the supporting documentation continue to be insufficient in our position because they ignore significant biological, environmental, and agricultural impacts. Since the November hearing, we've reached out to several parties in the community, neighbors, landowners, in addition to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, so that we may all better understand the real impacts that this project would bring to the community. And so we renew our objections that we stated at that time at the November hearing, and we request the Commission would deny the CUP and order a more thorough CEQA study to be done for really three main reasons. First, the negative declaration lacks the adequate assessment of the biological resources impacts. We spoke with Sarah Rains from the Streambed Alteration Agreement staff at the Department of Fish and Wildlife. She raised a serious concern about the traffic on the bridge that crosses the San Ynez River and the potential for compaction of the riverbed by the increased traffic. Currently, that bridge serves 2 residences across the bridge. We're going to go from maybe 10 or 15 trips to several hundred trips a day. If there's 80 visitors, 160 trips back and forth across that crossing. So the impact of that increased traffic has not been studied. The streambed alteration agreements on file, we've read through those, but they don't address this particular project. Those address the change to the stream bed with the additional culverts back several years ago, but not the additional project that's being proposed here. Ms. Rains also raised a concern about the additional hiking that will take place in the perimeter of the ropes course, which we've heard about this morning already. She discussed that during the wet season there are the development of many streams up in the mountains that have microhabitats, and the additional hiking up and through those microhabitats will have impacts that have not been studied, and so she thought that should be studied as well. Martin Potter is an environmental scientist with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and he stated that the 1602 Fish and Game Code section review, if this was brought through, would help them to do a more thorough study. And Christine Thompson's also a biologist. She also raised some concerns about the biological study and the sufficiency of it. They were unable to be here. They stated they would not, as a matter of policy, show up and make statements, but we've been in communication, and we certainly could put you in communication with them as well. So in conclusion, we think that this should not be approved because of these significant environmental concerns. Next is the land use development code section that talks about projects should not interfere with agricultural production. Well, we've stated this before, and we'll reiterate it, that there will be significant impacts to the particular type of land use that's going on along the easement road because of the sensitivity of the horses. With this increase in traffic, these are particular kinds of horses that are in retirement and that are recovering, and to have people and fast-moving vehicles will be a significant impact on them, and we've spoken to several people about this who support that. So I see my time is up. May I briefly conclude?
Yes, go ahead.
So we believe that the impact on these sensitive types of horses that are used on that agricultural parcel will be dramatically impacted, and we request the Commission to deny the CUP and order a more thorough impact study. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer those.
Thank you. Ann Khan, followed by Jim O'Shaughnessy.
Good morning. My name is Ann Kane,
Keen, thank you.
and I'd like to address two of the things that were just mentioned. That I'm an animal lover forever. I never had dolls, only stuffed animals. I'm a thoroughbred trainer licensed in many states. When I first came out to the Valley, I came out because of reading Monty Roberts' book, and I was the first administrator for his learning center. I've been in the Valley pretty much ever since the year 2000, and I love it. And I love the wildlife. I love all the animals, whether they're domestic or wild. And other than the lack of rain, I haven't seen any changes in wildlife behavior. They're not going to be impacted a great deal by these short zip lines. I had a farm in New Jersey with a long driveway similar to the Polly Rich situation, with very hyper thoroughbreds on both sides of the road and pastures. And I never had any problems with traffic. one vehicle that I'm aware of that I would worry about if I was a horse owner is what I call the stealth garbage truck that doesn't make any noise until the load drops, and then it backs up and beeps. And I still have ex-race horses. They don't pay any attention at all to it. There's one other point that was covered. No, that's it. I don't think it's going to harm the horses. They get used to a lot of things, and the wildlife is amazing. You know, they go wherever the food is and wherever the water is, and they're going to continue to do that. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Jim O'Shaughnessy, followed by Chris Swanson.
Good morning. So I've spent a lot of time out at this property as well, maybe not 10 years, maybe 7 or 8 lately. And there's a gravel mine that's super noisy and super industrial on one end, and a wastewater treatment plant on the other. It's not noisy. There's a lot of traffic that goes in and out there. There is I can't tell you for certain, but probably the busiest thoroughfare in the valley that goes right down the middle and borders all these properties. And so, you know, I can't imagine that there's going to be any sort of impact to any of the horses or the animals or anything like that. So I disagree with that. I just want to say that that's my opinion. And the good that's going to come from this for the community, for children, for the economy, the low impact. There's construction going on other parts of these properties that are much more impactful by many factors than what's going to happen to this facility. And I can't imagine that there's going to be, you know, this negative impact that's hyperbole to me, actually, that is going to occur from some cars going across a riverbed or something. So this is something that's really important for our community. It's good for children. It's good for the economy. I urge you to vote yes on this. I think it's been years of study and all that sort of stuff, and some sort of EIR requirement would be massively excessive. And somebody said there's a horrible precedent that could be set, or whatever, the other speaker, but if there's an EIR requirement for every sort of thing like this that occurs in any part of the United States, let alone Santa Barbara County, I think it's a waste of money and would be a huge discouragement to people to even buy property and try to use their property. So I hope that doesn't happen, and I would encourage you to vote yes today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris Swanson, followed by John Wolsack.
Good morning. I am heavily involved in the youth ministry and youth recreation in the San Ynez Valley, and I will remain in those positions for a long time because I have a heart for the youth in the valley and being involved in helping keep kids out of just bad characteristics and behavior. And I believe that this project is one of the best ways to do this, and we honestly have nothing like this anywhere around here. And so I speak for the youth of the San Ynez Valley and the leaders that are involved with the youth in saying that we need this, and this is one of our biggest hopes and prayers, is for new recreation to take youth to a place like this. Thank you.
Thank you. John Wolsack, followed by Jim Richardson.
Thank you. My name's John Wilczak. I'm a resident of the Valley for 10 years. I'm well aware of this project. I've been on the property many times over the last 7 years myself. I also serve as the president of the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Posse, an organization that, among other things, supports things like the DARE program. And I can tell you that young people in Santa Barbara County need things to do that get them outside and off these little digital things that steal their mind and steal their life cycles. And this is one of those projects that not only is good for the community and good for our economy, but fits in very neatly to a space that otherwise wouldn't be able to do that. I think it's a canard for people to get up and say some horses, and I own horses, that have been standing on property along the 246, maybe one of the busiest roads in Santa Barbara County, okay, running by every day. I mean, you guys know how many tens of thousands of cars go by these properties that are complaining about their horses maybe being spooked by somebody buying down a driveway. It's just a complete canard. Sounds nice, but when you take it into full context, it really doesn't make any sense at all. I've driven across the river. I saw the actual improvements that were done, okay? I know large trucks have driven over that many, many times. So again, the whole idea of saying we need to go back and study whether or not the upgrades that were done are sufficient to handle the traffic that's going through. Nobody's driving tanks across these things to tear that up. Again, it's a canard. It's an argument, an environmental argument to stop a project. I believe that the applicant and your staff's done a great job in explaining the values and also been responsive to your concerns, especially given that they're going to allow increased monitoring and will be in compliance to that. Again, I can only encourage you to support this project because it's the right thing for the valley. One of the things that we're missing severely in the valley are recreational opportunities for our young people. Where is our ball field complex? Where is our athletic complex in the valley? We don't have one. And one of the reasons is because it's very, very difficult to assemble the land to do something like that and the budget associated with it. Here we have a private landowner who's going to put in a project for the public good. Yeah, they can make money doing that. I have no problem with that. Should be a profitable venture. But at the same time, they're doing things like outreaching to their students to allow them to come and use the project. Okay, I look at that and I say you have to consider the full context of this. I don't believe that there is an impact on the wildlife. If that mountain lion who travels to Laurel's property needs to take another circuitous route around because they think that the towers that are standing there, remember, the people aren't walking on the ground. They're taken up to a launch point and then they get in a zip line and they come down. They're in the air. They're never touching the ground, okay, where this mountain lion might walk. Yeah, the gathering area at the bottom and at the top, yes, very, very small footprints. So I think that wildlife is adaptive, just like people are adaptive. And so I strongly urge you to support this project. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Richardson, followed by Lisa Novat.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Jim Richardson. I'm the mayor of Solvang. I'm speaking on my behalf, not the City Council nor the City of Solvang. But I'm here to tell you that I'm an active participant in the goings-on in the valley, and I hear from several people about the recreational opportunities in the valley. You know, in the year 2000, the Valley Blueprint was produced, and it showed the need for recreational areas and parks. In the 17 or 16 years since that report was released, I believe there's only been 3 parks built in the valley, and that would be the Sunnyfield Park, that would be the Riverview Park in Buellton, and a dog park. Now, I don't know if a dog park would qualify for recreational activities, but that's the 3 parks that I'm aware of. The speaker before me said everything I wanted to say, is that the need for this project is vital in the valley. The youth need the effort, need the exercise. The youth need we have very few soccer fields. We have very few football fields. We have very few baseball fields. This last Christmas, I had the honor of being a Santa Claus, and I talked to many children about their activities, and they all want something to do. They like the soccer, they like the softball, they like the football, they like golf, they like tennis, they like archery. Here's an opportunity for them to experience a new recreational venture. For myself, I've seen zip lines in action, and I've always wanted to be on one. And it seems to me that the idea of flying through the air on a zip line is through the trees can't be any more exhilarating than anything else in life. The rope course itself is a challenge. The rope course is something that I would like to experience, but I don't. According to the difficulty I've heard about it, it's a major project for someone my age to get probably even started in the thing. But the rope course, if you're not aware of the rope course, It's activities dealing with ropes, like rope bridges, like climbing nets and those sorts of things. And it's a challenging activity for young and old. I stand here asking you to please support this project and give it the permitting that it needs to help the people in the valley, to help our visitors with additional recreation, and to help our youth with recreation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lisa Novat, followed by Gary Novat.
I'm Lisa Novat, and I reside at 500 Highway 101, which is next door to Stu. My concern is the access. It says the primary access for the project would be via an existing 20-foot wide paved private driveway that extends southward from Highway 246. Well, the first thing is the driveway is not 20 feet wide. It's parts of it are 13 feet wide. That's, it essentially becomes a one-way street once you get up to the river crossing. So this first picture is after the river crossing. The pavement is just 13 feet, so it's essentially one car at a time. The next photograph shows my car going over the river crossing. The drivable portion is 15 feet, so essentially this is a one-way street, 80 cars or 160 trips. You cannot go past each other on this bridge. The third picture shows we do have continuing erosion. We try and maintain it, but the impact of 160 cars going one way at a time, I think it would create a huge chaos. The road out to 246 is probably 17 or 18 feet wide. But if I'm in my truck and my horse trailer, nobody can turn in from Highway 246. The road is too narrow. I have to exit onto 246 before anyone can come in. So it would create a huge traffic situation. And the last photograph just shows that's a light traffic day, but you could wait 5 minutes for one car to make that left-hand turn onto Highway 246. So I would like the access looked at further and to make sure that the existing 20-foot paved road is actually 20 feet. So, thank you.
Thank you. Gary Novat, followed by Jim Richardson.
Thank you. My name is Gary Novat, husband of Lisa. We own the ranch that is east of the property. We're talking about a driveway in your presentations. It's actually easement. It's not a driveway in the sense that parts of it are dirt roads, parts of it are Arizona crossings, parts of it asphalt, most of it's chip seal. It does pass within horses without any additional easements or setbacks. And that's a concern for all horse owners. It's not like 246 where there's a good 50 feet and deodars where there's blocking of the horses. So I have a concern about that. There's issues with access and sense of the traffic, the environment, which is well addressed in some of these issues, although I will reiterate on the mountain lion issue, we've had issues with the mountain lion. The mountain lion's been there before we have been there. And I have concern that it will have a negative impact further on that mountain lion. I have concern about maintenance being a chip seal road, not an asphalt road. I have a concern about the Arizona crossing as far as maintenance. Who's going to maintain it? It's our easement along with the Hartmans and Gildridge to maintain that. It's going to be financially burdensome to us with this commercial operation for us to pay for that easement. There must be a provision in writing who's going to maintain this easement. There's liability issue. Who's going to maintain the liability issue with the easement? Someone could be down there and maybe we'll have a flash flood and there could be an issue. And who's going to enforce it? Keeping records, that's one thing, but But at what point is there a violation or overage of what they're going to be doing on this property? I have concerns about the lighting. One light's fine. What's interesting about that property, it's north facing. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, lights go on that property. The sun is down in the wintertime. No one's addressed that. There's a noise issue. When you drive that road up, we could hear you down on our property because we're down from that area. In fact, I had the opportunity with my wife. Stu showed us the top, and she was able to hear me. Screaming zippers, you will hear them. That's great, but we should have certain hours and a day of rest. Like every day, Monday through Friday is fine, but Saturday, Sunday, on the weekends. So the time regulation is very important, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jim Richardson, followed by Joan Jameson. You already. You must have two, I thought so. Okay. Didn't know if there was another.
There is. He's
like
actually
named.
many personalities.
Joan Jameson, followed by Janet Blevins.
Hi, my name is Joni Jameson, and like Mayor Richardson, I serve on the Solvang City Council, but I'm here representing myself. I've lived in the Valley for 37 years. I was on school boards for 25. I've been on the City Council for 6.5, and I've served on what we call the hopeful San Ynez Valley Recreation Committee. For 30 years, we have tried to get recreational activities in the Valley. We have been shot down every time by neighbors, by zoning, by inability to finance. I attended the Blueprint Committee meetings numerous times, pleading with them to please put some kind of recreational overlay on appropriate agricultural lands. They said, that's a great idea. We will definitely do that. The blueprint came out, and there was not a word about it. We have fought an uphill battle for years in the Valley for recreational uses. And Stu has come forward with his funds to try to bring something that is delightful. Can you imagine the memories that will be created for families who come and experience the zip line? Like other people, my son lived on that property. That's a magnificent piece of property. We have visited that property numerous times, and I can understand the joy of people who live in cities who come and experience that. It's like when my son took people out on the trails up at Yosemite. He was a stable guy. People had never seen a mule, had never seen a horse, but he taught them how to ride. He took them out on the trails, and they have lifelong memories about that. That's what Stu's trying to do. He's trying to provide an activity to make people healthier, mentally more capable of dealing with the stresses of life, and creating memories for families. I encourage you to please approve his project. It is well worth you looking at it carefully, which you have done. Staff has done a wonderful job, but I think it's time to approve it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Janet Blevins. And that's all the speaker slips we have, so if we miss somebody, please come turn one in. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Janet Blevins. I live in Lompoc. Thank you, planning commissioners, for all and staff for the incredibly detailed work that you all do, and for your public service. I am thrilled at the idea of teaching young people to enjoy the out of doors without the need for motors or gasoline or excessive noise or dust or any of those other things that come along with projects that have been proposed where I live. Also, I love the fact that these landowners are wanting to serve the youth and also the environment at the same time, instill a love of oak trees and the out of doors, and even as Jim Richardson said, an appreciation for the exhilaration that you can get in the out of doors. And again, I say without a motor and without the use of damaging fuel. There are always considerations in any kind of project like this. There are yays and nays. People who know me and have listened to me before know that I am a tree hugger, and I think that's a great thing. My son-in-law is a certified arborist and very skilled with ropes. He rigged up a zip line for my granddaughter's 4th birthday party. And I'll tell you what, those 4-year-olds absolutely loved that experience. My 11-year-old grandson is so enthralled with ropes and learning knots from his uncle. We actually bought him a harness for his Christmas present. He's 11. He's going to learn to love to do things in trees and out of doors without damaging the environment at all. Following the county's regulations for land use and asking for approval is exactly the right way to go about doing this, as opposed to the way that someone who lives in Lompoc has tried to do and is appealing the Planning Commission's and Board of Supervisors' right decisions yet another time. So I just, even in spite of the environmental concerns that have been brought up by people, I am wholeheartedly in support of this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Seeing no further public speakers, we'll close public comment. And
Mr. Chair, can I do a short rebuttal?
Rebuttal?
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I want to address, and also Chip Wilbrandt, who's our legal counsel, I have a comment too. I want to address a couple, excuse me, a couple of the comments that were made here today. In regards to the road, and there was a photograph shown there, I don't know if we can bring it back up, but I think there was a comment to it being 13 feet, and I believe that on one version of the site plan, it noted erroneously that a section of the road was 13 feet. But I have, I would also note that the fire department review and conditions of approval and the roads department standards for development of such properties and access ways as this is that, and this was in my testimony at the last hearing, is that you are required or satisfactory surfacing of a driveway or a roadway consists of base, uncompacted class 2 base for roadways and driveways that are under 8%. You need to do asphalt roadways that are between 8 and 15%, and concrete surfacing for roadways or accesses that are over 15%. For the subject project site, all of the road corridors are far below 8%. And for the run that comes from 246, you may remember the photographs I showed you at the last hearing, and I measured it myself. That road is 20 to 22 feet wide and a 60-foot easement. There up at the 246 entry, there are some rosemary growing there that's encroached into the paving about a foot or two on each side, so perhaps the measurement was from the rosemary, but if you get underneath it and get to the edge of the pavement, the roadway is generally between 20 and 22 feet. When you come down to the end of the Pauley Ranch Farms property and enter into the river corridor, the road is a combination of paved and chip sealed and gravel or class 2 base roads and meets the requirements. When you cross the San Ynez River, pursuant to the photos I showed you before, that roadway is between 18 and 20 feet. And when you arrive on the property, it is 16 to 20 feet, either 16-foot paved with a 4-foot shoulder or 20-foot paved. So I have measured all those. I can see from the old staff report where somebody would, or the old engineering drawing where somebody would have saw it as 13 feet. But we can comply with the fire department standards that are imposed as a condition with the existing conditions as they are. There was also comments that were made as to noise and the impact on agriculture, to specifically horses. And I would point out that in the MND, there's analysis that is done for that. The MND notes that the traffic trips will be at a 42.5 decibel level. Ambient outdoor noise thresholds don't reach significance until they reach 65. So we're some 1/3 under that number. And so I think the MND has done a reasonable analysis of what the noise factors are for the project. Lastly, as to the access, someone spoke about the inability to make a turn at 246. And as you recall, as part of this project, the one improvement we are doing is the flare at 246 to accommodate the turn. I believe that flare, though, is a requirement, a design feature by Caltrans that is more akin to traffic circulation rather than a turn. But of course, a widened flare coming to the driveway is going to facilitate a turn also. With that, I'm here for any questions you may have, and then Chip has a comment.
No questions?
Members of the commission, thank you. Chip Wolbrandt. I just wanted to quickly respond to the comment and claim you heard about the 1602 permit. I actually processed the last 1602 permit out there. I think you've all been on the road. You've all seen the road. The road is a much more significant road than is necessary for the traffic that goes across it. The crossing is, I'll call it over-engineered. I wish I would have had Mark comment on this as an engineer, but very clearly an average of 5 cars. If this zip line project is full all the time, 5 cars an hour, regular cars, are not going to cause compaction of that crossing. The crossing was engineered to carry fire trucks, it carries large horse trailers, it carries very large vehicles. It has, it can have up to 10 very large culverts. I think there are 8 there now. The culverts were sized specifically to allow for steelhead passage, and the whole point of the project was to make it a steelhead-friendly crossing. And again, it's very much over-engineered. There's not a requirement for a new 1602 permit. The 1602 process, we need to extend those every 5 years. And interestingly, of course, our last extension was in 2012. We submitted this application in 2013. So this process takes almost as long as the 1602 permits last. And I would just urge that you take the very detailed research your staff has done since your last hearing in mind and confirm that there are experts who have looked at all of the potential issues. You have an environmental document that was done, and so the lawyer for the neighbor is not an expert, and I would urge you to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to staff. And does the commission have any questions of staff so far? Staff have anything to add?
No, I think everything has been covered. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess we would move on to deliberations. Commissioner Hartman, it is your district.
We did discuss this extensively last time. I think there's been a great deal of work since last time by staff and by the applicant to fill out the record. I think we are in deliberations, so I can put my position out here, and I'm willing to lay it out. I think whenever we have Williamson Act or agricultural property, I think introducing a recreational use is something we want to look at very, very carefully. In this situation, I think we have a very unique site, and I think that we have developed a very full record that shows, for me, at least 5 important factors. First, that it doesn't interfere with agriculture on the site or off the site. The second, that the agriculture off the site doesn't interfere with the recreational users on site. I think that this is a very low-intensive activity. The kinds of grading, the kinds of construction work that has to be done is very minimal. I think that the recreational activity, and this is very important for me, is very site-specific. We're not plopping down an athletic field here that could go anywhere. This is something that relates to the site. It's place-based education. It couldn't go just anywhere. So that, to me, is a very important factor. I think we've had additional work on biological resources, some additional conditions that I think are important. I realize that environmental review looks at the existing conditions, but it's my understanding that if this project weren't approved, we would have a horse boarding facility and probably a lot more intensive use of the land at the site. So I think that this is very appropriate. The final thing that I'd like to say about why I support this is that I was very involved when Buellton proposed to expand sixfold in getting an urban growth boundary passed. And after that was passed, that gives the citizens the right to vote about whether the city should expand its boundaries. We engaged in a vision process because it was very important that future growth be guided by the community vision. And as we've heard from many people here today, that vision was really very much in line with the blueprint and others, that we need more recreational activities for youth in the valley. And Buellton, in addition, would very much like an attraction that brings visitors as well as serves its youth. And I am very compelled by that vision, and so I am supportive of this project, and at the appropriate time would like to make the motion that we approve staff's recommendation with the modest condition change for condition 9 suggested by Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you. Any other thoughts?
I'll go next if you want.
Commissioner Blau?
Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of the project. And to just answer Mr. McKinney's question about the Architectural Advisory Board, there was 7 members that met that day. The vote was 6-1 to approve this. That was part of our staff report, I think. I agree. If you're going to do any kind of youth recreation, it's likely going to be in an agricultural zoning. That's probably the only place that you get parcels large enough that make an economic sense. I remember when David Smizer was the 3rd District Commissioner, and before us came an opportunity for a soccer field. And in that particular case, they actually had the land acquired, they had the funding for it, they're ready to go, but there was an issue with the neighbors complaining about it adversely affecting agriculture. And we had a parade of farm interests come in and tell us that it's an inappropriate place, that there's much better places to find soccer field for in the area, that we'll get one in 30 days, we'll have a better spot for us. And of course, it never happened. It went away, and they never got the soccer field. So again, this is a situation where I think Commissioner Hartman is dead on. This is a very unique piece of property. It's not really suited for agriculture, except maybe for a horse farm, which is probably more intensively used than what we're going to be doing here. So I'm definitely in favor of just not lose the opportunity to get some recreation opportunities for children, adults, everybody. So I'm going to support it.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooney or Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, this is despite the many benefits that this project brings to the community, it's been a very difficult project for me to consider. I'm not well, first of all, I appreciate Mr. Gildred considering the community and his outreach and what he's trying to do for kids and even adults to bring them to this wonderful site and to experience nature. I'm a hiker myself, so I totally get that. I've been even on a zip line, so even though it was sort of frightening, I conquered my fears and I did it, and I would hope that that others would have that opportunity. However, I think that if this project didn't have to go through this private road, I would be in favor of it, notwithstanding the precedent nature setting of the project. I am very concerned about the increased traffic on that road. I don't think this, when this easement was ever done, and I don't know how long ago that was, it was ever envisioned that there would be this kind of commercial project, this commercial recreational project. And I don't think we really know what the impact of the traffic will be. I suspect that if it's popular, it will be much greater than what we know or what is outlined in our staff report. So while I appreciate the need and the desire for the community to have a project of this nature, I am not supportive of it because of this private road. That I just don't think that the applicant has made the outreach or the overture necessary with the adjacent property owners to ameliorate the impacts. So I'm very sorry I won't be voting for it, but I think that my reasons stand and are particularly the precedent nature setting where I can now see zip lines going in on the Gaviota Coast, and then I think that's the last place that we want to see them. But so that's where I am.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I agree with a great deal of what my fellow commissioners have said before me on both sides. Commissioner Brown, ever vigilant to the risk that has been pointed out to us of allowing any intrusion into our ag areas for purposes of recreation, even passive recreation. Someone commented today that I think a fish and game representative had made the statement that there hadn't been an analysis of hiking in the hills around the project, and that should be done before we approve. So, you know, there are reasons to oppose the project here, but the amount of support for the project as being unique and not precedent setting are what convinced me to support it. And I'll just highlight a couple of important issues as far as I'm concerned. One is the existing activity along that road that preceded this application and will go on in spite of this particular increase in traffic. I believe that the oak trees will bear up under this additional activity. But I had the same thought that Commissioner Blau did about the soccer field down by the San Ynez River that I opposed. We don't have that situation here. If there was a proposal for a soccer field, even a baseball field in this particular location, I don't believe I could support it. The intensity of traffic, the intensity of use would be too great. And to my experience, the Ag Preserve Advisory Committee has opposed, based on state policy, that kind of intensive use on ag property. I know one field that was put in place by the owners of ag property in Carpinteria that with all good faith and intention to support the youth of the community as well as adults was not approved. It never even made it to the County Planning Commission for approval because it was clearly in violation of the conservation rules. So I see this as a low impact, a light intrusion on the natural surroundings, and acceptable on that basis because of what good it will do. But I want to emphasize that it is a conditional use permit, and if it turns out that our predictions of what impact this project will have are inaccurate, there will be an opportunity for the neighbors to bring it to our attention or anyone else. And it could be back before a future planning commission for revised conditions. Finally, I think the neighbors have the best chance here to modify the use of the project if it turns out to be too much of an intrusion on their peace and quiet. Mr. Gildred has been their neighbor for many, many years, and I think neighbor to neighbor they can solve some of the operational challenges that might occur. So by a narrow vote with myself, I will support Commissioner Hartman's motion to approve the project.
Thank you, Commissioner Cooney. I would just add, I think the applicant and staff have done an outstanding job here. They've been very thorough in vigorously reviewing the project. Commissioner Hartman had 5 points that she brought up to support the project. I agree with all of those points. I would go back to what the applicant discussed early on, that the word struck me as very descriptive of the project. It's an adaptive reuse. So you're taking something that had horse trailers and heavier traffic, actually, the old use of the property, and striking what I would say is a better balance by lighter vehicles and actually a lighter use of the property. So I'm ready to support the project, and we're ready for your motion, Commissioner Hartman.
I move that we accept staff's recommendation as modified by as condition 9, I believe it is, modified according to Commissioner Cooney's recommendation.
And I'll second that.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to point out that Ms. Abrish has prepared the rewrite of condition 9. It's, I think we can show it. She's prepared it in strikeout and underline, so I'm just hoping that that language meets your commission's intent.
I have one more comment.
Question?
Well, I have
Commissioner
one more
Blau.
comment. I want to ask staff. There was reference made to the fact that description or the requirements for a 20-foot paved roadway, that would be, if that's actually what it says, it's not quite appropriate. It should say all weather as approved by the fire department. So if we could make that one correction as well, so we don't have a conflict later on. Because I'm aware you don't have to have pavement. You're right. You could have compacted aggregate, and as long as it's all weather for the fire department, that's usually the requirement.
Commissioner Blau, that is reflected in the fire department's condition letter. It does not require a paved road.
Commissioner Hartman, are you comfortable with the language for 9? Okay, thank you, Ms. McCurdy. So it appears we're ready for a vote. Ms. Graham, would you call the vote, please?
Mr. Chair, just want to make a clarification. We were not able to read the language on the screen from Santa Barbara. I have confidence that that staff picked up all the points we were concerned about, and if it's acceptable to Commissioner Hartman, that's fine. But I don't think we need to have it read. I just want the record clear. We did not see it here.
Okay, there were some options here. They could email it down to you. They could read it. You're not interested in that. Would you like to take a small break? And
It says what Commissioner Cooney was wanting for. Okay. It's getting the quarterly reporting within 45 days. That's what it says. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're ready to call the vote then.
Commissioner Brown?
No.
Commissioner Cooney?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Blau?
Aye.
And Chair Farini?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, thank you, and that concludes today's meeting.
I'm going to give you a hug.